Hello, and welcome back to the Empower Her podcast. This is the first episode I'm recording in the new year, so happy official new year. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, just FYI, your girl has started doing video podcasts again. So if you want to see my face on YouTube, then you can watch it on there, have it on in the background, all the things. And since it's the beginning of the year, we're setting new goals, we're asking for what we want. If you love listening to these episodes, please give a 5-star review either on Spotify or Apple. It would mean so much to me. Just really helps with the podcast, especially in the new year. I'll be doing some new things, video content, all the things. So I would really, really appreciate it. Speaking of the new year, okay, today I want to talk about a topic that I think is super, super important, and it's really good to talk about in the new year or really any new season. You can do this. I think this is great to do every start of the season, and that's purging. Okay, we're talking about letting things go and making space for the new. And this is a super important topic because I truly believe from an energetic perspective that you cannot embrace new things until you've let go of old things, right? So I want to talk about this from an energetic perspective, and I also want to give you some points on what you can purge, and not just like the usual clothes and stuff. We will talk about that, but maybe some things you didn't think about that you can purge. So let's again talk about what purging is, okay? So purging really is like physically throwing out or emotionally releasing things like feelings, people, whatever it is that you feel like no longer serves you. And this can be really anything, again, tangible, physical things, or emotional, spiritual things as well. Again, a great time of year to do this because there's a lot of energy. Now, I know I talk about this all over social media. A lot of people prefer to do purging or have New Year's goals or things like that during the spring equinox, which is totally understandable because, again, January is hibernation month. It is really, like, from a spiritual perspective, it's not really supposed to be a time of setting new goals. But, you know, we also have to take into consideration the society that we live in, right? And the goals we have in our society and the way it's built. And the way it's built is we do celebrate the new year, right? And we do take into account the New Year's energy, and it is around us. So if you do feel like doing things in the new year, then you absolutely should, right? So if you do want to do this now, great. If you don't, you know, save this for when you want to do it. But January, again, because of our society, is a really great time to release things that no longer serve you, right? So it's a great time to look at what are those things that are actually bringing you joy, what's serving you versus not serving you. I love to purge, and it's not something that I always love to do, to be honest. I think when I was a child, like, and a teenager, I would even consider myself like a hoarder, like not bad or anything, but I kept a lot of things that I shouldn't have kept, I think. So, you know, I really held on to things, and there is trauma behind that, and there are reasons why we hold on to things, right? But I really had to let that go. And it is something that I dealt with in therapy, not directly, but indirectly. And so now I'm looking at things in my life, like, does it bring me joy? Does it make me happy? Does it serve a purpose? Or does it not do that, right? And the last 5 years, since I've gone through my spiritual journey, I started at the beginning of 2020 is when I really began that journey. I've just really purged, right? And I'm talking about big things and small things. Friends, I've talked about it many times that I had 2 girlfriends that I was friends with for 13 years, and we were like sisters. When I tell you, we talked every minute of every day, all the time, like we were obsessed with each other. And I had to make the really hard decision that they were no longer serving me in my life. And it was super hard. And it, you know, even when I made the decision, it was still months, maybe even a year before I finally felt like I could release that, because that's such a big deal, right? I purged relationships. I was dating a lot of men that, you know, weren't right for me. It's something I talked about in therapy, and I was holding on to relationships for the wrong reasons. I set more boundaries. I think boundaries is a form of purging, right? Because you're purging the need to say yes or to do all those things. I let go of clothes, and this was a big deal for me because I've mentioned it a few times, but you know, my weight has fluctuated quite a lot over the past 10, 15 years. I've had a lot of trauma with how people looked at me and my weight, and the comments that I used to get, the bullying I used to get for my weight. And so I was always holding on to those clothes that were, you know, not the right size for me. They didn't fit my body. And I was holding on to it as a sort of medal, like, okay, if I lose the weight and I fit into this, then I've won at life. When really, that's not how I want to look at it. I want clothes to fit my body. I don't want to fit my clothes. So I used to have like twice the amount of clothes I had now, and I finally started to purge every time. And now pretty much whenever I don't really switch out my closet anymore because again, I've purged so many clothes. So it's pretty much all year round what's there. But whenever I like go through my clothes, I just did that. If something doesn't fit me, if it's not the right size, goodbye. Like goodbye, we're not doing it, right? So again, there's so many different things that we can purge, and I really want to talk about the different things that you can do specifically. These are things that I have done, and these are things that I've seen work, and I really think these could be helpful for you to purge in the new year. Some of these will be more obvious ones, some of them not so obvious ones, hopefully something new for you. So the first thing, which I think everyone talks about, but I would be remiss not to mention this, and that is social media. Especially since I talk so much about mindset work and nervous system regulation, social media has a huge impact on your confidence and the way you see yourself and who you are as a person. So whether we're talking about TikTok, Instagram, whatever platform you're on, YouTube, right? Like looking at the news or whatever it is, set limits. Okay, if you're doom scrolling, if you're spending 5-10 hours a day on social media, some of us are, you think you're not, look at how long you spend on your phone, okay? Your phone will tell you. It's insane, right? And I was just listening to a podcast and they had a statistic about this. I was shooketh. Okay, this is what they said. They said that on average, okay, people spend 2.5 months of the year on their phones. Let me repeat that. People spend 2.5 months of the year on their phones. It's insane. And it's crazy, right? And I'm guilty of it too, right? I'm on my phone all the time. A lot of my work is on my phone, right? Especially those of us who make a living off of social media. I get clients off of social media. I have to post. It's part of my business, right? So that's normal. But, the scrolling, the doom scrolling, like that can also stop, right? Like I can do less of that. And it's just something to consider, right? It's like, where are you with this? What does social media have an impact on in your life? Take an audit of how much time you're spending on it, how you feel when you're on social media, right? Don't even get me started. If you're looking at social media first thing in the morning or last thing before you go to sleep, that's an immediate purge we need to happen. That's just gonna fuck up your nervous system and your mindset, right? There's a lot of, toxic positivity on social media. We're comparing ourselves to other people, right? Social media is a highlight reel. People aren't sharing the goods and bads of their life. They're only sharing the good parts. So just take that into consideration. Look at how much time you're spending on social media. Think about whose stories you're viewing, what videos you're watching. Think about what brings you joy, what doesn't bring you joy. Mute people, right? Unfollow people. That's also purging. Like if someone doesn't bring you joy on social media and you don't like engaging with their content, then don't. This is why I don't understand really like nasty hate comments, because if you don't like a content, just don't consume it, right? But that's a whole other discussion. The next thing you need to purge is your relationships. And this one's harder. I'm not going to lie. This one's hard. I'm talking about romantic relationships. I'm talking about friendships. I'm talking about family, right? Again, are there people in your life who aren't bringing you joy, who are causing you more and more stress and anxiety rather than anything positive, right? And again, a relationship can't be 100%, right? Like I'm married, my husband irks me sometimes, okay? He's annoying sometimes, but he's not annoying all the time or a majority of the time. I enjoy being around him. He brings me joy, right? Like I'm happy, I would hope so. So think about that, right? Imagine the future version of yourself. Are those people you have around you now going to be around you then? Are they going to support you? Are they helping you get there? Like really take into account these relationships. Romantic relationships especially, they say the, biggest financial and most important financial decision you can make is who you're married to or in a long-term partnership with. And there's a reason for that, because they bring you down. They don't support you with your goals, right? So it matters. So take that into consideration. The next thing we want to look at purging is your physical environment, okay? Whether this is your apartment, your house, your car, your desk at work, whatever it is. And yes, here's where we're talking about clothes, right? Clothes that aren't the right size for you, right? Goodbye. We need to, talk about What's around you? Like, do you have a desk and do you have a bunch of crap on your desk that isn't helping you work, right? Like, we need to think about that. Go into your kitchen and look at your home appliances. Do you have a bunch of home appliances that don't work anymore and they're just taking up space? Think about books, right? Books bring joy, and I think that to some extent, like, that's okay, but create space for new ones, right? Like, I live in a very small apartment. So, yeah, while books look pretty and I wish I could have a massive bookshelf with a bunch of books, it's not realistic. So I have to give my books away or donate them, or, now I'm reading more on my Kindle because it's just not something that's feasible in the size of my apartment, right? Creating space for the things that you want. Old makeup products. Okay, I just purged my makeup products. So when I came home from Miami, I was like, ooh, skirt. And I was deleting, taking all of them out, deleting, like I'm on social media, guys. Oh my goodness. Not deleting them, basically deleting them, but I was taking them out. I have a lot of makeup. I have so much makeup. And I was taking all the old ones and I'm like, why do I still have these in here? This is not necessary. And I threw all of them out, okay? A lot of them were expired. They were empty. They were dried. Like, why was I keeping that? Look at your fridge. Okay, we just got home from Miami. I had to go into the fridge. I thought I had purged everything before we left. Clearly not. I don't know what happened before we left, but I had to get rid of things that were expired or that we don't actually eat or don't actually like, right? So purge your physical space. Like, I truly believe that your physical space really affects your mental health and your mental space as well. I always tell people that I work with, like, if you want to, I talk to a lot of people about career coaching. So we're talking about, doing the work, networking, applying to jobs, and sitting down and doing it. And a lot of my clients who feel uncomfortable or they feel like they can't start something, I'm always like, okay, well, what does your physical space look like? How can we get it so that your physical space is more inviting? So I really believe that your physical space has an impact on your mental and emotional state as well. The next thing we want to purge is conversations and thoughts. Okay, this is hard. What are you saying or thinking that is not helping you become your best self? Okay, think about it. What are you telling yourself on a daily basis? What are those things you're saying to yourself? The negative self-talk, the negative affirmations, right? We're purging that, okay? We're not doing that. And again, it's not about toxic positivity, right? We can understand if we're struggling. We can understand if we have a bad day, right? Like, those things happen. It's okay to acknowledge it. But what we're not going to do is then say a bunch of negative things to ourselves, right? And have negative self-talk. We're not going to be doing that. So you need to purge your mental thoughts, okay? You also need to purge those goals and aspirations that no longer serve you, okay? If you had an old goal from 2024 and it didn't happen, it didn't come to fruition, and it literally no longer serves you, you don't feel like doing it, then why are you holding on to it, okay? We often hold on to goals or aspirations that aren't good for us anymore because we feel this need to fulfill them because we set those goals last year, whatever. We don't need to do that, okay? We need to release those. You can start fresh, do new things. You do not need to hold on to those things that don't serve you, okay? The next thing we need to purge, which hopefully is something new or something maybe you haven't thought of, is obligations and traditions, okay? And this can be something really small, it can be something big. I think we feel a lot of pressure, especially with family, to do things a certain way, to eat certain foods, do certain activities, spend certain time with people, right? But why are we doing it if it doesn't serve us, if we don't actually enjoy it? I'll give you a personal example. For us, every year on Christmas Day on the 25th, we would always watch Love Actually. It's one of our favorite Christmas movies. We love sitting in our PJs, drinking mimosas, and, watching Love Actually. This year we were all together, but for whatever reason, we didn't do it. Nobody brought it up, nobody said anything, and it wasn't a big deal. And I thought about it in my head. I was like, should I bring it up? Should I say it? But did I really want to watch it? Not necessarily. I feel like we've watched so much of it recently that I didn't think we needed to watch it again, if that makes sense. And this is like a silly example, but this is a really great example of a tradition we have. And we didn't do it this year because we didn't feel like it aligned with us for whatever reason. We were busy doing other things, we were just doing other things. And that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing, right? So let go of those obligations and traditions that really no longer serve you. And then the next one is letting go of habits and rituals that don't feel aligned. Okay, similar to the goals, we're going to talk about habits and routines, habits and rituals that don't feel aligned. Okay, look at your day to day. Look at your day to day from waking up in the morning until nighttime. What are those habits, rituals, routines that are no longer serving you? Is looking at your phone first thing when you wake up no longer serving you? Is scrolling on your phone for 5 hours a day no longer serving you? Is maybe it's going to, a spin class is no longer serving you. That didn't serve me. I was doing it for a while. It felt good. And then I stopped because I wasn't feeling good, right? What are those things in your day to day, those habits that are no longer serving you? This is giving you a really good opportunity to remove those things that aren't helping you and make space for those good habits, those good routines, right? Those good rituals that are actually going to propel you forward, that are going to make you feel good, that are going to make you happy, right? Because we also talk about happiness, okay? And then the last thing, which similar to social media, but I would be remiss not to mention this separately, is the digital clutter, right? So we're talking about the usual, like the subscriptions, the unopened emails, the files on your computer, the, photos you're never going to use because, you took 5 million of the same thing. Hashtag guilty, right? Anything that's causing you anxiety. Do you have a bunch of unopened emails, right? I'm psycho about my emails. And I like to have 0 on my email list. My sister, on the other hand, I think has like 10,000 unread. I would actually have an aneurysm if I had 10,000 unread emails, but I digress. So think about what's on your digital footprint, your phone, your laptop, your tablet, your Kindle, all the things, and remove and declutter and organize everything so that you can feel better from a digital space, especially if you're constantly on your phone and your computer, your work revolves around it, all those things. Like, it is important to purge those things, okay? Super, super important. I hope this episode was helpful. We talked a lot about purging in the new year, but this is something that you can really do any time of year to feel good. And it's something you can do in small increments as well. Like, you don't have to do all these things, today. So I hope it was helpful. Please leave a 5-star review if you enjoyed this episode. I hope to see you next week, and I hope you have an amazing day. Bye, everyone.